left. So yeah, they say, hey, we need you to make a dexterity change. Or a dexterity check. And we realize we found a little way for that autistic mind to step into a more real world. So it allows for those imaginations to develop. You don't have a screen telling you what your character sees like you do in video games. You know, you have a responsibility to portray your character, not like yourself, as a self-interested free agent. No, like the particular character that we have here, which is your character. We got to take some calls. 405-534-4747 is the number. We hope that you go ahead and give us either that opportunity or send us a text. Now, this is a brand new text line, and we are looking forward to doing more than just pranking people, which we've already done a couple of times by accident. That was an awkward situation.
That was fun, actually.
I texted somebody asking them telling them that, oh, baby, they're worth it. And, yeah, It was an awkward moment. Our text line is 405-896-2865. 405-896-2865. All right. While we're hopefully going to pick up a caller, we're going to go ahead and give an opportunity to listen to an 8-bit interactment of Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. Satan's game. Your children, like it or not, are attracted in their weaker years to the occult. And a game like D&D fuels their imagination and makes them feel special, while drawing them deeper and deeper into the bowels of El Diablo. This afternoon, the Dead Alewives Watchtower invites you to sit in on an actual gaming session. Observe the previously unobservable as a hidden camera takes you to the inner sanctum of Dungeons and Dragons.
Gallstaff, you have entered the door to the north. You are now by yourself, standing in a dark room. The pungent stench of mildew emanates from the wet dungeon walls.
Where are the Cheetos?
They're right next to you.
I cast a spell. Where's the Mountain Dew?
In the fridge, duh!
I want to cast a spell.
Can I have a Mountain Dew?
Yes, you can have a Mountain Dew, just go get it.
I can cast any of these, right? On the list?
Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right?
What room?
I want to cast Magic Missile.
The room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet.
I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting Magic Missile.
Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here.
I'm attacking the darkness.
Fine. You attack the darkness. There's an elf in front of you.
Whoa!
That's me, right?
He's wearing a brown tunic, and he has gray hair and blue eyes.
No, I don't. I have gray eyes.
Let me see that sheet.
Well, it says I have blue, but I decided I wanted gray eyes.
Whatever. Okay, you guys can talk to each other now if you want.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Gallstaff, Sorcerer of Light.
Then how come you had to cast Magic Missile?
You guys are being attacked.
Do I see that happening?
No, you're outside by the tavern.
Cool, I get drunk.
There are 7 ogres surrounding you.
How could they surround us? I had Mordenkainen's magical watchdog cast.
No, you didn't.
I'm getting drunk. Are there any girls there?
I totally did. You asked me if I wanted any equipment before this adventure, and I said no. But I need material components for all my spells, so I cast Mordenkainen's faithful watchdog.
But you never actually cast it.
Roll the dice to see if I'm getting drunk.
Yeah, you are.
Are there any girls there?
Yeah.
I did, though. I completely said when you asked me...
No, you didn't. You didn't actually say that you were casting the spell, so now there's ogres, okay?
Ogres? Man, I got an ogre slaying knife. It's got a +9 against ogres.
You're not there. You're getting drunk.
Okay, but if there's any girls there, I want to do them.
There you have it. A frightening look into America's most frightening pastime. Remember that it's not your children's fault that they're being drawn into a satanic world of nightmare. It's their gym teacher's fault for making them feel outcast when they couldn't do one single pull-up.
Okay. Oh, so yeah, that's poking a little bit of fun at Dungeons and Dragons. But the reality is that I think I've been part of some groups that have sounded rather familiar to that along the way. There's always that one who seems to be unable to sit at the table and is yelling from the other room. I don't know why that is. We didn't get any callers, but we invite you again to go ahead and give us a call at 405-534-4747. Again, it's 405-534-4747. Now we got to start talking about Christianity. Now, somewhere along the line in the 80s, or maybe even a little bit before that, Christianity, or at least American Christianity, from that evangelical / fundamentalized approach to their sort of culture, found Dungeons and Dragons to be terrifying to many of these evangelical mothers.
Oh, Lord.
Well, I'm trying to understand it from their point of view. I mean, these are the same people who felt like Harry Potter was part of some sort of like teaching witchcraft to young people, and feel that AC/DC actually stands for against Christ, Devil's Child. I mean, you can't say that has anything to do with electricity.
I've actually never heard that.
It's
what is it again? Against
AC/DC. Against Christ, Devil's Child.
Ooh, good.
No, it's this group. It's these fundamentalized, religious, hard right Christians, which seem to kind of believe or fear many things are just out to get them in the world, have somehow believed that Dungeons and Dragons is out to satanify.
Interesting.
Is that even a word?
No, I don't think so.
Probably not. Satanize. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure. We'll call it a word.
Their children.
Yes.
Yeah, and I had a traumatic experience around that as a child. My mother did not approve of my Dungeons and Dragons books and ended up tossing them into a fire right in front of me. And I had worked hard on obtaining those books by working in the blueberry fields that summer and saving up money on a $8 a day wage for a $20 book. Meant I essentially was spending 2.5 days just for a book that began to dissolve right in front of my eyes at a young age, because she was worried that my behaviors were starting to show some dishonor to her. And she was very, very heavy, and it still is very heavy on the "thou shalt respect thy mother and father."
I've heard a couple of those stories. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, adolescence is also a moment where people have a breaking away of the values of some of their parental guidances. They begin to see the world and experience the world and have minds for themselves. Oftentimes, parents find these things to be threatening and tries to go through power struggles with their children, but really don't do any good in the end. But whatever the case is, whether you are fully believe that this is some sort of idea of Satanism out to steal your child, I just have from my experiences, the soon-to-be pastor going to seminary, who very much likes Dungeons and Dragons and very much intends to have Dungeons and Dragons be part of not only my life, but my children's lives.
Not to, I guess, get too personal here, but it seems like your mom somewhat divided with Dungeons and Dragons, and your brother, who you don't really have a good relationship, actually brought you all together. It seems like you were living what you're now saying. It brought that sense of togetherness.
Yeah, my brother and I, since that point with Dungeons and Dragons, my mom was able to talk to him and really get to him, and he went on to become an evangelical, going to Portland Bible College, and never touched Dungeons and Dragons again that I'm aware of. In fact, I remember having a discussion about it later on in our adulthood, and him still thinking it was satanic. And me, who said there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm just like, how does two brothers living in two separate households have two different completely points of view on the same thing we both experienced together? And I think it has more to do with the acceptance that the parents provided than it was the acceptance that we had together. So the parents ended up alienating us from each other with taking that thing that was bringing us together, and he ended up feeling more secure and more affirmed by the parents for his newfound path in Pentecostal Christianity.
But there was no proof that he was becoming Satanized, as you say,
No.
from the game when he played it for you. There was nothing.
Nothing like that occurred.
Okay.
It just really goes back to those like night and day situations that are realities between my brother and I. It looks like we are still weak on the phones. And literally, guys, I will pay somebody next week to call in. Yeah, a free AlphaNerds shirt if you're wanting to go ahead and call in. But for now, let's listen to the retroreport.org. It's part of the New York Times. This is an edited version of their Dungeons and Dragons Satanic Panic episode. Yeah, this is actually really something that was a real concern. All right. We'll be back in a minute.
He was the victim of a campus game called Dungeons and Dragons. But after a month-long nationwide search, he was found unharmed.
Deer fed into the growing suspicions about D&D in a book that pointed to the game as a culprit in Egbert's disappearance. But Tim Kask, who helped develop D&D with Gary Gygax, says Deer was just hyping the story for personal gain.
He was a publicity hound, and he knew that he could hang it on D&D and gather a lot of media frenzy, and he did. Dallas Egbert is a tragic story. Brilliant young man, sent off to university at 15. It had nothing to do with D&D and the steam tunnels.
Still, that attention set off an unexpected chain of events.
Our stock took off, literally. We sold thousands of more copies within 90 days of all that stuff happening, and we were up in print runs. That's when we took off.
Sales nearly quadrupled the year after Egbert disappeared. As the cult game was going mainstream, Dungeons and Dragons generated interest in two conflicting groups, people who wanted to buy it and those who wanted to ban it. And televangelists took on a new crusade.
They are kids like yours, like the ones in your neighborhood. Kids who are turning to darkness because society has shut God out.
Conservative fundamentalist Christian group would see a game that involved satanic figures, evil figures. That would be a source of concern.
Dungeons and Dragons has been called the most effective introduction to the occult in the history of man. It is a fantasy role-playing game that teaches demonology, witchcraft.
Gygax, a religious man himself, was put on the defensive. The company hired psychologist Dr. Joyce Brothers to fend off criticism.
There is good and evil in life, and the way Dungeons and Dragons is set up is that good triumphs over evil.
Tim Kask says that in private, he and Gygax couldn't believe the game was being linked to devil worship.
Without sounding disrespectful at all, we laughed our butts off most of the time. Because it was like, are you kidding me? You really think we're teaching your children demonology?
But the grew after the news media reported that a string of teen murders and suicides had one